recently I just picked me up a 75-gallon tank from the Petco $1 sale, well, whatever sale they're doing now. I made a stand for it. It's a beautiful tank. It's designed especially for my Central American cichlids. I got my cool little see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I got everything all set up. All I had to do was a couple of more finishing touches. And before I could do that, I noticed a leak. Right down there. So instead of redoing the whole thing and then showing you after, I figured, you know what? A lot of you guys probably have come into an issue where you had a leaky tank and was bashing your head over what to do about it, especially since, dude, this tank was set up it's been set up for about 2 weeks and it just decided to spring a leak. It happens. So I'm gonna take you through the process of me tearing it down, actually, before I even could show you setting it back up. The cool thing is I never took any footage of the setup, and I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, this setup is actually 100% DIY, except for the actual tank. I didn't make the tank, but the lighting, the stand, the hoods, and I'm doing a little bit different with the filtration, and I'm going as cheap as I can, so that you guys could probably see how you can have, you know, a bigger tank than normal for as cheap as you can get it. So follow me as I tear this down. You know, I literally have to take it back to the store to get another one. So I guess that's cool. But yeah, this is my 75 Central American cichlid tank, and it happens. Now, unfortunately, I just got my Central American cichlids in here to get to the point where they wasn't afraid and darting to hide all the time. Brand new tank. Sometimes it takes them a while to, you know, get used to their surroundings before they don't feel so skittish. They were just coming out when I noticed the leak. And unfortunately, I got to remove them, put them in a temporary tank while I do all this stuff, which is actually going to take some time. Luckily, I do have extra tanks. If you don't have an extra tank to put all your fish in, a tote with an air stone and a heater would do fine. Especially if you have sponge filter, that would be even better. But especially, you know, this might take some time, so you might have your fish in that tote for a couple days. I'm actually gonna put them in my fish room, which I haven't showed any of you guys. It's funny because I haven't showed you guys this, and unfortunately you're looking at it now. And I haven't showed you really my fish room, and you're gonna have to see it when I place the fish in there. I do have my siphon going, and the reason why I'm siphoning out the water before I take the fish out is because it's a lot easier to take the fish out when there's only that much water in there. There's a whole lot of tanks to chase some fish down. So let's talk real fast about leaking tanks. First of all, whenever you get an aquarium, whether it be a 10-gallon, a 55, 75, 125, it's a really good practice to leak check it, which is simple. You just put it outside, fill it up, and let it sit for 24 hours to make sure that it's not leaking, which I did. In fact, I had this tank up for about a week and a half, 2 weeks before it started doing the little leaky thing. If you're getting it from a pet store, just give them a call. That's what I'm doing. I gave them a call. They said bring it on in. Mind you, they kind of know that I'm a fish tuber, so I don't know if that helped. Anyway, you know, they didn't want to get, you know, if they would give me any hassle, of course they knew I would do a video about it. But I don't want to go on that assumption. I want to go on the assumption that they was going to go ahead and do the right thing. But when you get an aquarium for the first time, what you want to do, right, is before you even take it out of the store, is you want to run your finger along all the edges on both sides of the seams of silicone and make sure there's nothing, like it's not flappy, you know what I mean, like it doesn't come up. You want to make sure it's nice and secure, and then look at the seam, make sure there's no air bubbles in the actual silicone, which I did with this tank. When you put it on the actual stand, you want to make sure the stand or whatever surface that you're putting it on is straight and level. You don't want one end higher than the other. This particular stand that I got my DIY stand, let me show you. I'm using cinder blocks, right? Now I took a long time to make sure these were even. I used a level, and as I was filling the tank, I was watching to make sure all four sides, you know, the water was, you know, going up at the same rate by measuring the water level to the top of the glass on both sides. So I'm pretty certain that there's not an issue with it being, the stand being off, you know, center where there's a pressure point. Sometimes things just happen. You know, I worked at a couple of pet stores, and sometimes it just you could do all the checking you can, but you know, in a perfect world that wouldn't happen. But this ain't a perfect world. So what I think, there was such a, maybe the only thing I could think of, and I'm only saying this right now because I can't investigate it, you know, with the water and the rocks in there, is I checked all around the sides. There is no water, not even on the top lip right here. There's no water anywhere around the back or the sides of it. It's coming from underneath. More than likely what had happened was the pressure of the water found a very, very weak spot. One that I couldn't see, or maybe it created a weak spot. You know, maybe when they cleaned the glass to put the silicone, they didn't clean it quite good enough that 75 gallons of pressure pushing down on it wouldn't force the issue. It's only a drip, but you know, that could get worse. Or like Father Fish I was talking to about it, he said, you know, it could actually fix itself. You know, temperatures make things expand and contract. I got this tank at 82 degrees, so maybe the glass or the silicone expanded, leaving enough gap for a slight seepage to come through. At any rate, that's what I'm dealing with now. You know, it's very, very small. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that I was digging up underneath there and felt a drop on my arm, I don't know how long it would be till I noticed it, because this is all the water that's in there, and this is 2 days worth. I found the leak Thursday night, late Thursday night. I put the bucket there. I've been busy as heck, and because it's been just a drip, I haven't had time. I'm not gonna have time to take this back till tomorrow, and today's Saturday, so that's how much water on the Thursday night. Not a lot. If you had a rug or something, you may not even notice it till it was, you know, notice that water. You might have thought that it was evaporation. Honestly, if this leak was in such a place where, like, maybe it was the back of the tank where I wouldn't see the water, I would probably imagine this would be evaporation, being so little and having the water at 82 degrees. So a lot of you may be thinking, oh, that's so terrible, poor AquaFunk. But don't be mad. Listen, sometimes when you're setting up a tank, actually every time I've ever set up a tank, I've always thought to myself, man, I should have done this, or I should have done that. Well, now I can. You know, I had the tank running for, like I said, a week or two, and I was like, I could have done this, could have done that, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but I didn't. But now I can. See what I'm saying about it being a lot easier when there's less water? You can just corral them to one corner of the tank and scoop them up without having to go crazy chasing them around. Because in all honesty, chasing them around like that is very stressful on them. So to make it, so the faster to do it, the better, you know? Look at that. Because they don't have that up and down option anymore, you know? Maybe some of you guys were thinking during this whole process, if you've gone through it, oh, I'm gonna have to make this tank cycle, it's gonna have to take forever again. Well, no, it doesn't. What you need to do is you need to take the biological part of your filter. Now, in this particular case, I have this internal filters. I have 2 of them, and they have their biological substrate is these sponges. I also have undergravel filter, which that's pretty much going to be ruined, because an undergravel filter uses the actual gravel, the bacteria in the gravel to clean. But because I'm going to take it out of there, it's not going to have no oxygen, it's not going to have no fish pooping in it to feed the bacteria, and they're going to be pretty much dried out when I empty, because I'm not putting all this gravel in watery buckets, so it's going to be dry buckets. That beneficial bacteria is going to be ruined. But the beneficial bacteria in these sponges, well, all I have to do is throw this into the tank that they're going to be housed in until and it'll continue to stay alive. So when you do set your new tank back up, really all you have to do is, after the water has been dechlorinated, put these in there, and in my opinion, you can put your fish back into a brand new tank within 24 hours. Now, recently I did a video talking about FRITZ enzyme 7, which is an automatic bacteria, automatic beneficial bacteria with nitrifying bacteria. You can use that. In fact, that's what I used to cycle this tank to begin with. But I'm gonna go ahead and just keep the bacteria alive in this. Well, I use the FRITZ again. I don't know. Either. Listen, I'll put a description of that video. I put a link to that video in the description below, or up here, or over here, or wherever it is, this little thing. And if you do decide that you want to try out this Fritz Enzyme 7, I did a review on it. There is a little link, and if you buy it using this link, I do get a little taste of it. So you know, I would appreciate it. It definitely helps my channel. All right, it's kind of noisy in the fish room, so I'm gonna have to do some voiceovers. But basically, what you're looking at is my laundry room that I've turned into. It actually works out pretty good because I have access to water. My laundry room is actually, you have to walk outside. It's connected to the house, but the door is not connected to that, so you have to walk out back. So as far as draining water, I just throw the hose right out the door. And because the water heater's in there, it stays nice and warm. Sometimes it stays too warm. I actually, if you look, you see a lot of air. That's to cool the water down. Those air bubbles act as like a air conditioner. At any rate, so I gotta let these fish temperature acclimate in the bucket. I have no heaters in these tanks, so whatever temperature the room is whatever temperature the bucket is gonna have to be before I put them in. Here's the plan. The plan is to take the discus out and put them in the 10 gallons, and the fish that I took out of the 75, I'm gonna put them in the 45. The reason why I'm doing that is because the Central American cichlids out of the 75 are jumpers. I haven't put a lids on those 10 gallons yet. The discus are not jumpers, so I feel pretty confident of putting one discus per 10 gallons. They'll be fine in there, and I could put a lid on the 45 because I do have a lid for that. Those 10 gallons, recently, they're cycled and everything. In all actuality, putting fish in there is something that I needed to do anyway, because if not, this cycle was going to run out on them, and so the discus being in there in 2 of those 10 gallons is actually a good thing, at least for those 2 10 gallons. So these guys will be fine in here, you know what I mean? They're going to be good in here for as long as I need. Now, I got to get the rocks out of that old tank, which is a pain in the butt. I wish I could tell you some cool trick or tip on how to get this stuff out, because in all honesty, getting the gravel out is the most tedious, irritating part of the whole process. If it was sand that I had in here, then I would, you know, siphon out the sand and have the sand go into a bucket and let the water overflow out and leaving the sand behind. If it was peat gravel, I actually use a net and scoop up the gravel with that. But when you have large stones like that, it makes it kind of difficult. And all you can do is, you know, scoop by scoop, and, you know. All right, so it's completely empty now, and I can run my fingers. I'm gonna show you guys. I can run my fingers along the seams, and well, I mean, it's hard for you to see because there's still like a 1/4 of an inch of water in there, but let's try it anyway. All right, so the majority of the water was at the front of the tank, which is this way. And if I run, look at the dog. Rosie, Rosie. Hey, what's up, little girl? Anyway, let me see. If I run my finger this way, you see how much, if you can see how much silicone is right there, right? On this side, it's not as much. It's way thinner. I compared, you know, I looked through multiple tanks, and they all had the same type of deal. And in my head, I'm like, oh, that's just the way they are. But I think hopefully when I go back to exchange this one, they have a new batch. Maybe it was just a batch, had a thin seam. I don't know. But at any rate, I'm gonna be looking for thicker seams. There's no obvious spot where the silicone is uplifted. So that just tells me that when this tank is full with pressure of 45 gallons, it creates a weakening of the thin layer that they put of silicone. But like right now, even with this little bit of water, it quit leaking. It quit leaking a while ago, actually. Even with like a 1/4 of a tank of water, and it quit leaking. So it's a pressure issue. I'm gonna be a little bit more picky next time around.